Welcome back, Faith Street friends. Are you ready for our little secret craft? Before we begin, I just want to remind you of the story that we've been talking about today. It was about, yes, Jesus and Jairus. And his daughter was super sick, and he was this well-known, powerful leader of the Jews in the synagogues, which is their kind of religious church type place. And he was a pretty important guy, but he came humbly to Jesus with his request, and he believed, right? Jesus even said to him, and I'm looking for my little, not to be afraid. Oh, here it is, sorry. Not to be afraid, but to believe. And he did. And actually another woman along the way who also had trouble, this trouble was for herself, she reached out to Jesus literally and touched him, and he healed her and was kind and compassionate to her, which is one of the most beautiful things about our God, right? Well, we talked about reaching out, we talked about prayer, and we said we're not going to make a craft about prayer, but we are going to make a craft for our dads, right? But before we do that, I wanted to show you the Bible verse that goes with today's lesson. I hope you can look it up and write it down. It is Psalm 17, verse 6, all right? And I tried to pick some different colors for my words to make it a little bit easier for us to remember. So all the calls and prayers and answers back and really listening words are all in red, because those are super important and I think most noteworthy. And of course, God is nice and bold in dark brown. Okay? So it says, I call on you, my God, for you will answer me. He calls, he goes right to God right away. This is written by the psalmist David, King David. Turn your ear to me and hear my prayers. So he's just asking God, I called to you because you listen. So listen to me again, God. He had more things to tell God. And you can find out about that in Psalm chapter 17. All right. So even way back in Bible days, people were talking to God, calling out to God. He is there for us. He's listening. And David reminds us, I call on you, my God, for you will answer me. He answers. He doesn't always say yes right away. Like even in the case of Jairus' daughter, he didn't say yes right away, right? He waited actually a little bit. And everybody got all freaked out and worried because they thought she died. But he was ready in his time to do the right thing. For the lady who touched him, immediate yes, right? He healed her immediately. You never know. Sometimes we have to wait, right? I call on you, my God, for you will answer me. Turn your ear to me and hear my prayer. Psalm 17, verse 6. I'm going to post that up, okay? So you can check that out a little bit later, all right? So our craft is not going to be a prayer craft, even though most of our lesson was about really reaching out to God, telling him the things that are troubling us. But we did a prayer craft recently, so I thought it would be fun to make a little surprise for our dads. So this is what we're going to make. I saw this on Pinterest or something like it, and it was actually a card, and it was this little cute rocket glued onto a card, and the card opened up and you could send it to your dad. But I thought if we skipped the background in the card, we could make just the little rocket ship, and it could also open up so we have some space to write some happy things to our dad, or just some things that you're grateful for. We talked a little bit about that in the story, about what a big God we have and how powerful and strong, like our song said, he is. And you know, God is so many things. I needed a really big paper to write some of those down. So I suggest that you take a little time this afternoon and maybe put God in the middle of your paper. If you don't have all this crafty stuff, that's something you could do. And write things that you know about God from the Bible. That he is good. That he is everywhere. that he's all powerful and all knowing. He knows what's going on. He always has been, he always will be. He's just. He hates sin. Those kind of go together. He doesn't play around, really. Sin is not okay ever. He remembers me, but he forgets my sin, the Bible says. When we ask him to forgive us, he forgets all about it. He says he puts it as far as the east is from the west. So there's a lot of great things about God. On my poster, if you do not have the supplies to make this project, I recommend you get your crayons or markers out, put God in the middle, and write down all the things you know about God. A lot of these came from the Bible, and even more came from songs that came from the Bible. So they were kind of singing in my head when I started writing my poster. And there's lots of room for more. All right, so that's another thing you can do. And it kind of reminds me that our Heavenly Father, God, is reflected in our earthly fathers. So think about your dad and the fact that he's helpful and strong and good, and he loves you. And even if you can't always be with him, he loves you and he's there for you. All right, so you can think about that, and maybe you want to put some of those things inside your little rocket. All right, now I just use scrap paper, so there's kind of something funky on this side. It's pretty, but whatever. And I put a little piece of white paper on the inside. But what you're gonna need for this project is up here. You're gonna need a square, a scrap square piece of paper. So just a square. And if you're not sure if it's a square, if you fold the opposite corners together and everything lines up to be a triangle without too much space on the other sides, you know it's a square. All right, so there's our square. You need one square that's big. You need one square that's little or smaller. And I'll tell you how to know. Get this first. Once you get this, you can fold it in half. Either way, because it's out. It's gonna make a rectangle either way. All right, once your big square is in half, you can cut a square to be, and mine might be kind of a rectangle, but that's okay. It's just kind of a square. You can cut it to be the same width as the rectangle, this one. All right, and I'll show you why in a minute. So, big square, any kind of paper you like, little square. You need those two squares. You can get some other scraps of just any old color, because those will make some nice decorations and designs. I put on a hole punch and some yarn. This is my yarn from Miss Val. It's actually almost like string. It's super fun. Those I used for the fire coming out of the rocket ship, right? And if it's a bookmark, which I was hoping we would make, it can stick out the top of the book, and that'll be fun and easy for your dad to find his page. And of course, scissors and glue. They're friends, they're always together pretty much. So grab your supplies, scraps, one big, one little, yarn, hole punch, glue, scraps, and scissors. And meet me back here in just a second, okay? All right, welcome back. All right, so like I said before, this is our goal here. I'm gonna stick it over here so we can see, and I'll kind of refer to that. We are gonna take this square, the big one, and just fold it in half, as close to the edges as you can. And if I would be doing this on a table, I would show you, but I always kind of line up my corners, and once I get it where I want it, then I kind of pinch it together so it's nice and creased. All right, so there's my rocket body. Okay, I'm gonna put that down for a second, and I'm gonna pick up my small square. Now my small square, remember, is the same width, that means from here to here, as my rocket ship now is, because remember I folded it so I can write some nice little notes on the inside. All right, so I'm gonna fold this one too, right in half. I'm gonna line up my edges if you need to See if your mom or your older brother or sister, somebody can help you. And now I have a rectangle here too, but I'm not going to keep it that way. All right. I'm going to start at this bottom corner and I'm going to cut up to this top corner. So a diagonal. I'm going to make a triangle out of it for the top of my rocket ship, like our nose cone. And don't throw away your scraps, because these are going to be those side wings on our rocket ship. See? So now I have my little cone for the top, this little triangle, and I have these two wings. See? Perfect. So I'm going to start by gluing just a tiny little bit of glue on the bottom of the back of this little triangle, just the bottom. Okay, and it's always harder to do, boys and girls, when I'm on screen than it is in real life, but I'm gonna put it on the front of my rocket, right at the tip top. See? Then I'm gonna find a piece of scrap paper that maybe can go on top of it in the middle. I think it would look kind of cool. And I have this kind of fun, I feel like it's kind of African cloth looking stripedy paper. So I'm gonna glue that in the middle. And you don't have to. You can put anything you want. You could just leave it plain. But when I do that, it'll also hold the top of my cone down, because that glue will go onto that cone and it'll be like a little sandwich in there. So I'm gonna glue that together. Okay. And now that is ready to go. So there's my rocket so far. Can you see? Should I come up a little closer? So far. Now remember I said to save these two little triangles? These are gonna be the wings, okay? And I'm gonna glue one on the bottom on one side, one on the bottom on the other side. All right, so notice how my triangle has a flat side and it has a diagonal side. I'm gonna put the flat side next to my extra strip. If I ever go too fast, just pause, okay? And I'm gonna put this one with the flat side next to my strip. Now it looks even more like a rocket, doesn't it? Pretty cute. And I still can open it to write some little notes in there. I might give one to my dad too, actually. I can put it in one of his books. He likes to do word searches, so I might give it to him for that. All right, and then if you want to, you can use some of your other scraps. I'm gonna use this blue, even though it's teal, and it doesn't really match at all, but that's okay. It's fun. I'm gonna use it to make these little circles, because I don't know, you know how rocket ships always seem to have those little windows. So I'm gonna start with 3 little squares, and when I'm making circles, all I do is cut in a curve motion. So this hand is turning, this hand is cutting. This hand doesn't cut at all, or doesn't curve at all. And I'm just cutting off the corners, these edges of my square to make a circle. That's how I always do it. I start out with a square and I turn with this hand, cut with the other, turn and cut until I get my little circles. They're pretty good. They're not perfect. That's okay. Nobody's trying to be perfect, right? I put that on my poster about God. He is perfect and wonderful, and I just do my really best, right? And he knows that, right? And if ever I'm getting into a bind, what am I going to do, boys and girls? I'm going to call on him, and he's going to answer me. He's going to be there for me. And I can look back at all those stories we've been talking about in the Bible, and we know that it's true. He's helped so many people over time. So there's my little rocket ship so far. Isn't it cute? The last step before we write in it is to make 3 punches. And I'm not gonna punch in this back piece right here. So I'm gonna kind of open it. I'm gonna put the first punch, boys and girls, in the middle under my circles. Right there. I'm gonna put one over here and one on this side, so they're kind of symmetrical. One on the two wings, one in the middle. Can you see those holes? I think so. All right, then you're gonna need 3 of these, strings or yarn or whatever. And I think if you can find yellow or red, that would be super nice, right? So you're gonna fold it in half. I'm gonna show you how to get it in there. Okay, you're gonna fold it in half like this and hold this little top loop. And it's a little tricky, so you might need help, but you're gonna push the loop through the hole. So I'm gonna start with my middle one. I'm pushing the loop, and see, I have to kind of pull it. And now that loop is through my rocket. Can you see it? And see, these are on the other side of my paper. I'm gonna bring these 2 through my loop. So I make it nice and big just to make it easy for me. Okay, give it a little tug. Voila, a little tassel is what that's called. So again, fold it in half. Doesn't have to be exactly, it doesn't really matter at all. All right, so the loop side, I'm gonna push it through this hole by my wing now and open up that loop. All right, while it's open, I'm gonna bring these 2 ends, both of them, through my loop and gently pull, because I don't want to rip my little rocket, right? So I have to pull kind of gently. All right, and big brothers and big sisters, you help out with this one if any of your siblings are having trouble. All right, and moms will help too if they're not cooking dinner or something. All right, again, my loop. Got to give it a little push through the hole that you just made by the wing. It's okay. Be gentle though. All right. Once you get it through, open it up. Bring those 2 ends around and through. And now you should have your fighter, because you know how rocket ships are always blasting off, right? Okay. Now you can open it. And you can say something super sweet like, I love you to the moon and back. Make sure you sign your name. Always sign your name. Artists always do that. You could even put it on the back, your name, if you want to. And then maybe you want to think of some things about your dad that are true, that you really appreciate about him. Like maybe he is good. Maybe he forgives you like God does. Maybe he's kind. Maybe he's a good listener. Maybe your dad is always with you. Maybe he's wise. Do you know what wisdom means? That means like knowing stuff, but actually using it so properly and carefully. All right? He's maybe giving. I'm sure he's loving. Maybe he's rescued you a couple of times. Who knows what you might put on your card. But I hope that you give it to your dad with some really kind words in here, and hide it in his Bible or some other book that you know he's gonna read. Don't tell him. Let it be a secret, and then let's see the surprises that we are gonna get from our dads this week, okay? So good luck with your rocket ship, and I'll see you soon, boys and girls. I miss you, and look forward to being on Faith Street in person. But until then, watch for these videos from me, Miss Sharon, Miss Michelle, Mr. J. You have lots of stuff coming your way. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.